I don't think anyone wakes up one morning and decides they're going to spend their life chasing other people's approval. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts with something so small you barely notice it. Maybe you say a joke that everyone laughs at, and for a minute, you feel seen. Maybe someone compliments the way you look, and suddenly, you find yourself trying to recreate that same moment over and over again. Maybe you post something online, and it gets more attention than you expected. For a little while, it feels good, really good. It makes you feel like you matter. So the next time you post, you hope it happens again. Then again. And before long, you stop asking yourself whether you're posting something because you genuinely want to share it, or because you're hoping strangers will remind you that you're worth something. That's the scariest part about validation. It doesn't usually take your freedom away overnight. It borrows it little by little. One decision at a time, one compromise at a time, until one day you look back and realize you've been living for everyone except yourself. I think we've all done it in one way or another. We all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted. We all want to feel like we belong somewhere, don't we? And that starts becoming the reason you make every decision. Because once your happiness depends on other people, you've handed them something they never asked for. You made them feel responsible for how you feel about yourself. And the most difficult part of it is that most people don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're just trying to fit in. They're just trying to make people happy. They're honestly trying to avoid disappointing people. But every single time you ignore what you actually want, just to earn someone else's approval, you're actually teaching yourself a dangerous lesson. You're actually teaching yourself that who you are isn't enough. So you start changing your mindset a bit, just enough that people will like you a little more. You laugh at jokes that aren't really funny. You agree with opinions you really don't believe in. You become whoever the room wants you to be. At first, this actually works. There's a time in my life where I used to go partying, and every single time I went out, depending on the group, I would change who I was for that night. And people seem to like you a bit more. You actually get invited more often to go out. It makes you fit in easier. But, and there's a big but, there's a catch. The version of you they're accepting isn't really you anymore. And that is why validation is so addictive. It gives you a very quick feeling of acceptance, while quietly taking away your authenticity. The more approval you receive, the more afraid you become of losing it. So instead of expressing yourself honestly, you start protecting the version of yourself that everyone else expects. So then, you become exhausted trying to maintain a character that was never supposed to be your identity anyway. And eventually, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or 50s, you end up asking yourself a question that never should have taken that long to ask anyway. And that question is, if I stopped trying to impress everyone tomorrow, who would I actually be? And that question is uncomfortable, obviously. It's a tough question. And it's not tough because it's difficult to answer, but because a lot of people don't know the answer anymore. They've spent so many years becoming what everyone else wanted them to be that they lost track of what they wanted to be in the first place. And that, I think, is one of the most saddest things a person can experience. Just think about it. Imagine spending years climbing a ladder, working harder than you ever have, sacrificing your time, your energy, and even your peace, only to reach the top of the ladder and realize it was against the wrong wall. That's not who you are, that's not your goals, it's just the version of you that you created. And that's what chasing validation feels like. You keep telling yourself that once you reach the next milestone, everything will finally make sense. Maybe it's getting into the relationship you always wanted. Maybe it's getting a promotion. Maybe it's buying the car you dreamed about. Maybe it's finally getting enough people to notice you. You tell yourself, once I have that, I'll finally feel like I am enough. That's the problem, that the feeling never lasts. You have it for a little while, you're happy, you feel accomplished, you feel like you finally made it. Then, even without realizing it, your mind moves the goalpost again. I've used this analogy in my other videos, but I think it's so good on explaining this topic. Because now, here's the fun part. You want a bigger house, you want a better job, you want more followers, more money, to be recognized more. Like you're running towards the horizon, no matter how fast you move, it always stays the same distance away. And I'm not going to be like, oh, since I'm making this video, I have it all figured out. Because I think we all have fallen into this trap at some point in our lives. We convince ourselves that we're only one achievement away from finally feeling complete. But that's the issue here. Today, you don't feel like you're enough. Tomorrow probably won't change that, no matter how much you move towards your goal. And one thing I've noticed is people who seem the most desperate for validation are often the ones who care most about other people. They're very kind. They want everyone to feel included. They don't like disappointing people. They'll actually go out of their way to make someone else's day better. And those are amazing qualities to have. But somewhere along the line, they stopped extending that same kindness to themselves. They become so focused on making everyone else happy that they forget to ask themselves a simple question. When was the last time I made a decision that was right for me? And not because someone expected it, not because it would make other people around me feel proud, but because it genuinely felt right to me. And that is a very difficult question to answer when you spent years living through other people's expectations. And maybe that's why so many people feel so lost in this generation. Not because they don't have a direction, but because they've been following someone else's map. And there's something incredibly freeing about realizing that you don't have to prove your worth every single day. You don't have to earn the right to exist. Like if you're going to skip the gym for a day and people make fun of you for it, that is an expectation that other people are setting on you, that if you're not feeling it, you shouldn't have to go to the gym just because they want you to. You don't have to convince everyone that you're successful enough, attractive enough, interesting enough, or accomplished. Your value isn't something you achieve. It's something you recognize. The moment you stop asking, how can I get people to start liking me, you start asking a much better question. Am I becoming someone I respect? Because at the end of the day, the relationship you have with yourself is the only one you'll guaranteed to live with for the rest of your life. If that relationship is built on other people's opinion, it will feel unstable. But if it's built on your own values, it becomes something nobody can take away from you, no matter how hard they try. There are moments in life where this becomes incredibly obvious. Think about the person who stays in a relationship they know isn't right. Deep down, they know that they're not happy. Trust me, I've been a friend to so many people that have had this mindset of where they're not happy and you're like looking at it and you aren't a part of the relationship. So you could see it from the outside perspective and you could see all the things wrong with it and you tell them, but they cannot end it. Which is fair because deep down, they know they're unhappy. They know that they're constantly questioning themselves. They know they're giving more than they're getting back, but they're staying. Not because they're in love, but because the thought of being alone feels so much worse. They are no longer chasing the relationship anymore. They are chasing the feeling of being wanted. And those two things aren't always the same thing. You gotta remember that. Or, let's think about the person who constantly says yes. They agree to every favor. They never speak up when something's bothering them. They apologize even when they haven't done anything wrong. Everyone describes them as easygoing, easy to work with, easy to be around. But what nobody sees is how exhausted they actually are. because they spent so much time trying not to disappoint everyone else that they've completely disappointed themselves. I think one of the biggest turning points in life is realizing that not everyone has to understand you. Some people are going to question your decisions. Some people won't understand why you walked away from a certain relationship, why you changed careers, why you spend your weekends differently, why you seem quieter than you used to be. But that's totally okay. You don't owe everyone an explanation for becoming the person you need to become in life. Sometimes, personal growth looks confusing from the outside, especially to people who only knew the version of you that was trying to please everyone. If one of these points that I'm saying gets taken away from this video, there's a huge difference between being liked and being respected. And there's an even bigger difference between being respected and respecting yourself. Because if you don't respect yourself, you'll constantly look for someone else to fill that gap. You'll spend your life chasing approval that never feels like it's enough. But the moment you stop asking the world to tell you who you are, you'll finally get the chance to figure out yourself. And that's where real confidence begins.
Now I feel alive.